Summer McIntosh is arguably the best all-around swimmer on the planet right now. I'm going to show you exactly how she's swimming so fast so you can apply it to your own swimming. And at the end, I'm not only going to go over her dive technique, but show you what she's doing out of the water to be strong and explosive in the water. The teenage phenom is a 3-time Olympic champion and 4-time world champion. But first, let's take a look at her freestyle technique. Now, when we look at her freestyle technique, one thing she's doing really well is staying really high in the water. She does this in all of her strokes, which we'll see, but just in her freestyle stroke, when you take a look at it, how high she is in the water. Now, obviously, in this specific event, you can see she's dominating everyone. She broke the world record in the 400 IM. This is the event right before the Olympics at her Canadian trials, I believe. And you can see just how high she is in the water. And at the very end here, she's going into a head-down sprint finish. But I want to zoom in on this technique right here. And you can see her body line, and she is really, really flat. Now, she obviously has rotational momentum, but when you can see, let me draw a better line. You can see her head position right there, and this is the line of the water. You basically want the angle right there to be as small as possible, because what happens is when you breathe, and she breathes every 2 strokes, you lift your head up, and the higher you lift your head, the lower your legs are gonna sink. And you can also see she has this great high elbow above the water and below the water. And this is a tried and true technique if you want to swim faster, and she's doing a phenomenal job with that. Now, one thing that you do need to pay attention to is how often she breathes given the events that she swims. So she's not an all-out sprinter where she's swimming the 50 free. She's swimming longer distances that are conducive to breathing every 2 strokes. So you can see she's able to build a really good rhythm with her technique, really strong 6-beat kick behind her, really good extension. She's really working on maximizing her distance per stroke. And when you swim the longer events like the 400 IM, you obviously need to do that. And she's doing a phenomenal job breathing to the side, 1 eye and 1 ear in the water, straight arm into the finish. Let's take a look at her breaststroke. Same concept, hitting that streamline. Look at that streamline. She wants to be as long as possible. I believe she's a pretty tall swimmer, maybe standing at 1.8 meters, which is maybe like, what, 5'10", 5'11"? But despite her height, if you can't use it to your advantage, it doesn't mean anything. It's actually gonna make you slower because you're gonna be bigger. So you wanna really narrow your profile in the water and be as narrow as possible. And breaststroke is all about timing. It's pull, kick, glide, right there. Look at that glide. Pull, kick, glide. She's able to really ride high on top of the water and then drive the hands to streamline. You can see the hands right there. They're really just setting up for an explosive drive. If anything, she could probably be more explosive, and the timing is good, but I think there's an opportunity here to be even more patient when she's in streamline, because that is the fastest position. So by increasing leg strength, you can actually maximize the propulsion from your kick and then set that into your actual streamline to get more distance per stroke. So she's obviously doing a really good job with that. I think there's an opportunity to be even more explosive on the hand drive. Granted, this is a 400 IM, but still, if you look at the best breaststrokers in the world, it's all about maximizing that drive to streamline. And there she is right there, big push to streamline. Even when she drives down, I wanna go back to that just a second. Even when she drives into streamline, she's not diving down necessarily, she's going forward. And you can see that when she comes up, her elbows are literally at the surface of the water and her hands drive on that same line. And then her head is going to meet the hands and really extend into the streamline position. So take a look at that here on this stroke extension. She's remaining level on top of the water. She's not necessarily sinking. Now look at her backstroke. Wow, that is precision. So clean. Look at that head, not moving at all. There it is in slow motion. And you can see, look at that head position. Her eyes are looking up at the ceiling. You could put a water bottle, a cup right on her head and it wouldn't fall off. And keep in mind, this is a race. This isn't even a drill. And you could easily put something on her forehead, and of course, for the streamline off the wall, it's not gonna work. But while she's on top of the water, look at that head position. And when you have a good head position, the rest of your body is going to be high in the water as well. Let's go back and look at it from the side angle. I mean, look at that. Her whole body is basically dry. Now, if you end up looking to your feet, you're gonna keep your butt low in the water. So she's doing a really good job balancing that high body position. Also look at the arm, it is completely straight. And in backstroke, you want to exit the water with your thumb and enter the water with the pinky. And that happens because you're rotating from side to side. So watch that here. You can see how she rotates right in front of the shoulder, quick catch, and she's really riding high. If anything, if she's going for some speed, her hand entry is maybe a little bit too narrow. So you want to have the arm enter just outside the shoulder like this, especially if you're going for tempo. Now she's obviously able to maintain a really strong tempo, so that's not really a problem for her. But this is an opportunity. If you want more tempo, a lot of swimmers make the mistake of hitting the water like right on the other side of their head. You want to think 11 and 1, like the arms of a clock, and that's really what you need to be doing for backstroke. So look at that, a little bit narrow. Now let's look at her butterfly. Her butterfly is a work of art. Oh my goodness, look at how clean and efficient it is. It looks like, actually, well, a couple things here. So let's look at the head position on the breath. Now, you can tell a really good swimmer from a great swimmer in their butterfly by how high their head comes out of the water while they're breathing, especially on the second 50 of a 400 IM, where she's already done a 50 butterfly and she's conserving energy. So if this were like, if she were really trying, you could have like, you know, a millimeter between her chin and the surface of the water. You can see that gap right there. And when you look at an inexperienced swimmer, I'm gonna just draw an inexperienced swimmer here. Their head might be way up here, so their chin is there, but the water line is over here. And you can see this gap. That's the difference in skill. You know, you look at like a Michael Phelps, or, you know, one of the greatest butterflyers of all time, his chin was right on the surface of the water looking forward on the breath. And Summer McIntosh right here is doing a really good job of that. Can she be even lower to the surface? Yes, actually she can. And you know, if you go and watch one of my analysis videos on Michael Phelps, you'd actually see he's even lower to the water than she is. But again, Michael Phelps is the greatest butterflyer of all time. Summer McIntosh is pretty good at butterfly. She's obviously, you know, best swimmer in the world right now all around, but this is obviously a room to improve. And again, it could be because it's a 400 IM. Now look at what's happening with the arms. The arms are completely straight. Open up your wings and fly. And you can see the distance between the hands and the water should be very minimal. You don't want that to be very high, because what's going to happen is you're going to, what goes up comes down. So the legs are going to be low if the arms are too much effort to come out of the water. So that's really good, really clean. Now one thing I did notice on her arms, when her arms are coming forward right about here, actually we need to go back just a few frames. Let's watch that again. You can see she's creating a lot of resistance. And this might be some back development, back strength she'll gain, but you want your bicep basically to be just a little bit higher over the water to carry until your arms meet at 11 and 1. So I didn't really draw it that great. Let me try it again. Right here is where the hands are gonna enter the water at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And that's really optimal. We talked about this in freestyle and backstroke, it's the same thing. And that's gonna set up your catch right in front of the shoulder, because that's where you have the most power. So let's keep watching this through. And you can see she looks really smooth, great kick behind her. This is a great view, look at this. So here, let's look, pause it on the, well, she's not breathing on this, but you can see the eyes are looking down, and you can see the back muscles are really engaged. She's finishing the catch out the back. Now let's watch it. There's the extension. Now this is a part that most swimmers screw up in butterfly. At this point, once the arms are in front and your body is fully extended, you need to press your chest down. Your head and chest come down because you want your hips to come up. Look at how high her hips are in the water. Her butt's literally gonna come out of the water, and that only happens when you press your chest down. And if you don't do this, then your legs right here are just gonna sink. They're gonna be really deep and you're gonna be dragging your legs. So this is the biggest mistake that swimmers have for literally all the strokes, is that the legs are too low. So in butterfly and breaststroke even, because it's a short axis stroke, meaning the axis, there's no axis of rotation. Freestyle and backstroke are long axis strokes because you're rotating. But in breaststroke and butterfly, it's short axis because you're pivoting around your hips. You really need to make sure you're driving your chest forward and down so that way your butt comes up. And you can see here, she's obviously doing a really good job of that. Probably some room to press the chest even more down. And she doesn't have to because her legs aren't dragging that much, but for men specifically, if you've got really beefy muscular legs, your legs are gonna be dragging, and if you don't do this, your legs are just gonna be sinking in the water. So really important to consider, but look at how smooth she is, wow. Okay, let's talk about her dive. Now, we don't really focus on it too much for her because she swims the 400 IM and longer events, but at this level, You have to have a good start. And if you want to learn a thing or two from an Olympic champion, let's take a look at how the dive works. So we're going to play it in normal speed, then I'll do it again in some commentary. There it is. Now it doesn't look, I mean, now it looks impressive. Look at how much speed she carried into the water. We'll get to her dry land next, but I want to zero in on her dive. So there it is. Now, the first thing we're going to focus on, where are her feet pointed? Her feet are pointing in the direction she wants to go. A big mistake swimmers make, especially the back foot, it's facing like this direction, and so the hips are facing at like a 45-degree angle. You don't want to do that. Now take a look at where her eyes are. Her eyes looking straight down at her feet. You don't want to be looking there, you don't want to be looking there, no good. You want to be looking right at your feet, and if you notice, she's in an athletic position. You can see how her leg is bent. Her back leg, I mean both legs are bent, but the spacing between the front of the block and where this fin is relative to where her foot is, this is an athletic position. You can actually train like this. Imagine out of the water, a split leg lunge. When you lunge backwards, you're building strength in this range of motion. When you're doing a step up, we're gonna talk about dry land next, what she's doing out of the water. These are all things that are immediately applicable to the start. And you can see she's in a very athletic stance. She's very comfortable. She looks relaxed. She looks like she should just be chilling there for a while. Now I'm sure this is a stretch. You don't want to be there for very long, but she could. This is not uncomfortable. So if you feel, oh, I can't even stretch that far, you know what you need to work on? You need to work on your flexibility, because this should be not too difficult if you're trying to do a competitive racing start. Staggered start, hands are gripped. They are comfortable on the block. And now you can see the posture of how flexible she is, because you can see that her back is basically straight. So a lot of people, they really need to arch their back, and that's because their hips are not as high as hers are right now. So her butt's really high on the block because she has the flexibility in her hamstrings to be able to do that. Now let's go ahead and play. And you can see on the take your mark, on the go, she basically immediately started pulling with her arms. If you didn't see that, let's go back just a few frames. Watch this. And you can see she basically got firm on the block, and then on the beep, or on the go, or on the whistle, whatever it was, that's when she pulled with her arms and then went immediately to streamline. I mean, look at her body position, leaving the block right now, and both feet are still on the block. I see a lot of swimmers try and get really fancy and technical, and they fling their arms around, and then they don't even hit the water in streamline. It's like, if you don't hit the water in streamline, you have to do that before you try and do anything fancy with your hands. There's nothing wrong with pulling on the block, having your arms swing around. That's cool and all, but if you can't get your hands back to streamline before you hit the water, it's a huge mistake. And she is exemplifying what it means to hit the streamline before you hit the water, because she's literally in streamline before either of her feet even leave the block. I would say this is probably one of the most extreme stances on having this competitive start. Most people, they would have already have been in streamline like maybe a half second later at like this point right here. She's already in streamline, so that's pretty cool to see. And you can see she carries it in. Look at how narrow this hole is. She's like diving into a tiny hula hoop, and her whole body is going to just slide right into that. It's pretty remarkable to watch. And there she is. And because she entered the water with so much power, so much precision, she is now carrying so much speed underwater, phenomenal underwater start, breakout, and there she is. Now look at the dry land. Whoa, look at this girl go. Are you kidding me? This is Summer McIntosh. This is called beast training. She is a beast. She is absolutely crushing it. How much weight is that? In any case, she's doing some explosive power movements where you pick up the weight really quick. Now the goal here is not to do like 100 repetitions. She's probably only doing 4, 6, 8, 10 reps on this kind of an exercise. Pretty cool. Doing some dry land at her team in Florida. That's pretty cool. Doing some squats, get that leg power. There we go. This is some core rotation with a medicine ball, core stability. Now this is from her Instagram, a collab with Red Bull, I believe. Now she's doing leg extensions, and based on how fast she's able to do it and how much swinging there is going on, she probably needs more weight. Let's go back and watch that so you can see. Yeah, she needs more weight on that exercise, it's fine. This is a great one for core. Push up into a knee tuck. This is a good one. Really keep that spine engaged. This is a negative. So she's working on controlled muscle engagement, but then look at her pump out those pull-ups. Neutral grip, let's go. This is another explosive movement, squat. kind of like a clean and jerk right there. Very impressive. As you can see, Summer McIntosh is one of the best swimmers in the world. And if you want to hear about her story and how she became so dominant and an Olympic champion, make sure you watch this video right over here. I'll see you over there, and happy swimming.